please introduce yourself and your position at ISR?
My name is Phil McGawan. I'm the head of English Secondary and the head of English as an additional language in the secondary school as well.
How long have you been a member of the ISR family?
A very short time, just 18 months. I arrived in August 2024.
As head of ISR Secondary School English Department, what are your main responsibilities and how do you work with your team to ensure high academic standards and a shared vision for English teaching at ISR?
Wow, that's a big question. It's like a job interview. For me, my biggest responsibility is to make sure the students in the classroom get the very best deal they can get. And so to do that, what I aim to do is try and create the conditions for each of the amazing teachers in the English department to be as creative as they possibly can be. So there's an organisational side to that, making sure information's really clearly shared and making sure deadlines are met, but there's also a sort of strategic side to that as well, making sure that people have the training they need, the opportunities to grow, the resources they need. So yeah, I'm really proud of the way our English department collaborate together. I think is our biggest strength as a department. We meet 4 or 5 times a week to plan what the students are going to be doing the following week and how we can tailor what we're doing to the needs of the students in front of us each year. Because of course we teach the same books often each year, but we're always teaching different students. So we're always looking to adapt how we approach our teaching and learning.
As a grade 12 homeroom teacher, how do you guide and support your students during their final year, particularly as they balance IB examinations, university applications, and personal growth?
Grade 12, or IB Year 2, is really tough. I'm from the UK system. I did A-levels, so I only had 3 subjects. Our students here have 6 subjects, plus CAS, plus EE, plus TOK. It's tough. And so as a homeroom teacher, which is a role I've been new to this year for grade 12, my aim really has been to give them a safe space where they feel supported, a calm start to the day, but also a space where they can be a little bit daft, a little bit silly. We play some games. We try and almost like a stress-busting session each morning before they leap into what is a really sort of high-pressured sort of day-to-day approach to learning.
With AI tools available to students, how do you balance their benefits for writing practice with the challenges they might pose in learning and assessment?
I think whenever anything new comes about, I'm old enough to remember the start of the internet. There is a sort of terror that it's going to ruin education or it's going to ruin something else. And I remember early in my career having to teach students how to use Google and how not to trust the very first thing Google gives you. And that's still a valid thing to learn. But it's exactly the same with AI. AI is a tool that's been invented. It's possibly the most sort of groundbreaking tool since the Gutenberg printing press was invented. It really is changing the world right in front of us. But we can't, as teachers, just put it in a box and pretend it doesn't exist. And we can't simply say, don't use it. For a start, we'd be hypocrites. And most of the teachers I know, myself included, use AI on a weekly, if not a daily basis. So our job is to teach students how best to use it, to try and teach students, for us from an English perspective, about what it can and can't do. So AI cannot analyse a piece of text as well as an IB student can. It just can't. It's not as specific, it's not as clever as a human brain, I don't think, yet. And hopefully it never will be. Otherwise I might be out of a job.
How did you first become interested in English and literature, and what inspired you to pursue teaching?
I think behind most teachers is probably another teacher. I think English became my subject because I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it because I found it easy, so success came. And once you're successful at something, then you gain motivation, and so it creates this sort of positive cycle. So that helped. And then, my A-level year, there was a specific teacher called Mr. Price who asked our literature class of 10 at the start of the year who liked Shakespeare, and nobody put their hands up. And he asked us again 10 weeks later when we'd finished reading Othello, which is my favourite Shakespeare play, and all 10 hands went up. I had a teacher that took Shakespeare from being this old thing I didn't understand to being this thing of sort of lyrical beauty and of just genius. So yeah, I sort of got into teaching because I wanted to be able to do that. I'm not sure I'm quite as good as Mr. Price was, but I try on a daily basis.
Do you have a favorite lesson, unit, or activity that consistently engages students?
Oh, that's a really tough one because, as I said to you before, I mean, we sort of replan our units as we go each year. Last year we redesigned our curriculum, and one of the things I love about being head of English is I'm a sort of part of every bit of what we do in English. You know, I get to lead this amazing team of collaborative, creative teachers, but that means I also get an input into that. And so there isn't one unit that I particularly love or that I think is particularly engaging, because I think every unit we have builds on the one before it to build this amazing journey from grade 7, when they arrive in the secondary school with us, right the way through to the end of the IB. You know, our grade 7s start with Beowulf, you know, one of the oldest texts to have ever been written down in the English language, specifically in Old English. And their journey takes them all the way through to, well, my grade 11s this afternoon were studying film. So we go as far back as we can and as far up to date as we can as well. So I think it's all great.
What role does ISR's multicultural student body play in shaping discussions and learning in your classroom?
It's a huge thing, personally and professionally for me. I absolutely love being part of this multicultural ISR culture. You know, from a personal perspective, you learn so much about the world. You know, I spent 20 years living in Liverpool in the northwest of England, and then another 20 years living in Newcastle in the northeast of England, and it's quite a sort of monoculture. And then I come here and I'm teaching students from all over the world with aspirations to go all over the world, and it's really, really exciting in that personal sense. And then professionally, you know, you teach a text that I've taught Macbeth many, many times in the UK. You teach it here, it has a different resonance for students. They understand different parts of it. And one example I thought came up today in a meeting, actually. One example was that for most British people, if you say the year 1066, they know what that means. That has a particular meaning in Britain. Whereas people here, depending on what you've studied in history, that might not be a date that's in any way important. And so there's little differences like that, things that you take for granted and you think, oh yeah, this will work. Oh, actually it didn't, because no one knew what that thing was, because no one had the experience I had. And I think that for me is the most important bit, is just really enjoying these rich global experiences that ISR exposes our students to, but also its staff as well.
Reflecting on your journey as an educator and leader, what has been one of the most rewarding experiences at ISR so far?
I think I wouldn't narrow it to a single experience at ISR. I think being at ISR has been a rewarding experience. Professionally, I moved from teaching in the UK system to teaching the international baccalaureate system, and so that professionally was a real challenge. But just, again, personally, just being part of such a rich environment, rich experiences across the year, and those moments like the Spring Festival, which isn't far away, that when we get to really sort of connect with our sort of families as well. I just think, yeah, I've found every part of being here really enriching.
Outside of school, do you have a favorite book, author, or literary genre that inspires you?
I've always said I haven't found my favourite book yet, which is a bit of a cheat when you come to answer that question. But it's just because there are too many and it's too hard to pick. I do have a favourite genre. I think it's murder mystery, maybe shared with spy novels. And it depends on which day you ask me which of my favourites I would pick for that. But for today, we're going to say Agatha Christie. I think Agatha Christie essentially invented a genre, that sort of whodunit, country house mystery. And I remember the first time I read Agatha Christie, I read it thinking, gosh, this is a bit cliched. These are all the things you expect. And then it sort of dawned on me. No one expected it when she wrote it first. And I think that's amazing to have shaped not just a genre, but an entire sort of, style of entertainment that is still massively popular even today. Is really impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.